"It's time," said Khan, Cassius, and Buddha, "to take our rightful place as the leaders of the new enlightened time, and to teach them all the price of opposition, the price of blood, the price of honorless death, the price the blood spirit shall taste." Telling the story of the glass spider would be impossible without first discussing the Galahad, a battlemech born within the Terran hegemony in the 26th century. Tasked with creating a mech that could be more effective than the Rifleman 1N, designers struggled with the use of energy weapons and the heat that they generated. For some reason, they had crammed a PPC and a large laser into each arm of the mech with only 13 double heat sinks. The 50-ton prototype, named Galahad 1D, created in 2570 by the designers at Mitchell Vehicle, was unable to overcome the heat issues, so the team went back to the drawing board. If their mech was going to be successful, they would need to seek a new path. That path would be found with the introduction of the Gauss rifle to the Terran hegemony in 2590. Using electromagnets to propel a slug of solid metal great distances at high speed without much in the way of waste heat generation was exactly what the Galahad needed. In order to fit two of the massive rifles into the Galahad's frame, significant changes had to be made. A smaller engine was used to cut weight, which limited the mech to a top speed of just 54 km per hour. They also had to bump the weight up 10 tons. Star League 6 Endosteel and Grumman 3 ferrofibrous armor were also added to further save weight at the cost of filling critical locations. Finally, after 4 years of hurried labor, the Galahad 2D was in production. With an M7 Gauss rifle in each arm and 2 tons of ammunition for each, the Galahad 2D was able to fire 2 slugs at incredible distance at a consistent pace. Though initially welcomed by units, the Galahad continued to have issues involving the arms and shoulder actuators, which were not originally designed for the wear and tear that comes from firing such large rifles. Mechwarriors also registered complaints about the mech's inability to keep up with lancemates and the lack of any secondary weapons should the ammo bins run dry. Deployed to units during the Reunification War, the Galahad struggled to meet expectations due to its slow speed and dependence upon a secured logistics train to keep the Gauss rifles firing. As fighting became more desperate and brutal among the periphery state battlefields, more than a few Galahads were isolated and taken down once they had run out of ammunition. Most of the Galahads were distributed to the SLDF forces, and the hegemony hesitated to let too many filter out into the house units due to the value of the Gauss rifle technology. Due to this, when Kerensky's Exodus fleet left the Inner Sphere, most of the Galahad 2Ds went with them. Those that were left behind were gradually made casualties of wear and tear during the First Succession War. The Galahad production line on Graham 4 was destroyed in 2790, and from then on, the mech stomped slowly toward extinction. Without replacement Gauss rifles, some Galahads were refit with autocannons, but never in a concerted effort. The Endosteel framework and ferrofibrous armor was next to disappear, making repairs on the mech impossible, or at very least woefully inadequate. The story of the Galahad takes a turn among the clans who saw that both the 1D and 2D Galahad could benefit from advances in technology. While the Inner Sphere regressed, the clans pushed forward. None of the clans were more interested in the Galahad than Clan Widowmaker. Now, it would be an understatement to say that the Widowmakers had a rather combative history with the other clans. How's that for diplomatic speak? They were instrumental in the demonization and destruction of Clan Wolverine, and later on, when their rivalry with Clan Wolf ultimately led to the death of Nicholas Kerensky during a trial of combat where Nicholas attempted to intervene in the fighting. This act, intentional or not, doomed the Widowmakers in the eyes of the other clans. During their desperate attempt to survive the trial of absorption, the Widowmakers left nothing off the table, including their upgraded Galahads. Now, calling them upgrades doesn't do the glass spider justice, as it really is much more like a 2C design rather than a C refit. From the ground up, every system and part of the battlemech was new, and it took advantage of clan advanced technology. Weighing in at 60 tons, the glass spider's core frame was built from Heavy Series LX Endosteel and a Fusion 240 Mark V engine. This improved the speed of the machine from its inspiration to a modest top speed of 64 km per hour. The 10.5 tons of Forging ZM-15 ferrofibrous armor provided better than expected protection for a fire support battlemech. For comparison, the Mad Dog only has 8.5 tons of armor. The Glass Spider's communication system is an SX-485 Mark IV, and the targeting and tracking system is an advanced GH-D8J TTS, which is notable as this electronics package is tailored to improve the mech's shots against highly mobile airborne targets. More than a few aerospace fighters have been plucked out of the sky due to the Glass Spider's unexpectedly accurate Gauss rifle fire. Speaking of, the mech's two weapons are a pair of Series 2 Gauss rifles that are lighter than the original Star League designs. On Dagda in 2834, with Clan Wolf making their drops onto the planet to wipe out the Widowmakers, every available battlemech was pressed into service. This included the Glass Spiders, which were still at the factory complex, some of them without even their first coat of primer, and a few only partially assembled. Marching forward toward their destiny, the new Glass Spider would be christened in the fires of obliteration. Firing from the top of a ridgeline, the Glass Spider Gauss rifle caught the Clan Wolf mechs off guard. This was a time when the rules of Zellbriggen were rigid, and this allowed the Glass Spider Mechwarriors to pick their targets and hammer them from great distances without having to worry about others intervening. Of course, ultimately Clan Widowmaker would not be able to hold out against the fury of the wolves and the other clans, and ended up being absorbed. While not as completely wiped out from clan history as the Wolverines, very little of Clan Widowmaker would survive. A few blood names, non-combatants woven into the fold of the Wolves and Goliath Scorpion, and a few genetic lines carried on, but without any mention of their origins. The Wolves also left Dagda with examples of the Glass Spider, which had earned their respect. The reliable and simple power of the Glass Spider resulted in it becoming a staple second-line battlemech across Clan Tumans. However, by the 2900s, Clan Wolf decided to tackle one of the critical flaws of the Glass Spider. Without a dedicated logistics chain, the mech was basically useless. The fix involved pulling those iconic Gauss rifles and going back to the original idea for the energy weapon Galahad. The Glass Spider Variant 2 debuted in 2952 and carried a selection of clan pulse lasers backed up by a targeting computer. The two large pulse lasers can reach out to up to 20 hexes, and the two mediums out for 12. For closer range fights or to keep infantry away, 3 small pulse lasers fill out the right torso. While obviously a drop in possible DPS from 30 at long range down to 20 at a more modest distance is a hit, the Glass Spider Variant 2 makes up for it with no ammunition concerns and an unparalleled level of accuracy. A -3 on to-hit rolls can completely wipe out a light mech or aerospace fighter's speed advantage, and it can be a rude wake-up call for an unexpected enemy thinking they would close in on the Glass Spider and overwhelm it. The 16 double heat sinks are more than enough to keep the mech cool at long and medium ranges, so there's very little in the way of respite for an enemy in the Glass Spider's crosshairs. After the first units of the Variant 2 started rolling off the production lines at Callan Industries on Thermopolis, it was such a popular mech that it even showed up in first-line combat duty. Clan Wolf warriors identified the value and demanded more. In the Jade Falcon attack on Ark Royal, Mechwarrior Jason Jakowski, an independent mercenary who happened to be on planet at the time, found himself and his Glass Spider 2 pressed into a hasty planetside defense. As Jade Falcon aerospace fighters strafed the city and fleeing military units, Jakowski brought down several points with his accurate pulse laser fire. The effort saved many lives, and he was able to escape with many civilians into dropships before the Falcons could close the trap. Even though the Variant 2 of the Glass Spider was and continues to be potent in the Il-Clan era, there are other attempts to improve the design. The Glass Spider Variant 3 was a product of Clan Star Adder, who first produced and fielded the mech in 3065. The 3 also embraces energy weapons, but in the form of 2 Type DDS Kingston ERPPCs, 3 Series 6A heavy medium lasers, and 2 Series PPS-19 medium pulse lasers. All of these lasers and the PPCs are tied to a targeting computer. Looking at the range profiles of the weaponry, you're going to be relying upon those ERPPCs to do your damage until at least 12 hexes away. Once you are at close range, the 16 double heat sinks are going to make firing the heavy medium lasers and medium pulse lasers the preferred option if you're going to want to avoid going into the red. At least at 9 hexes, you could do up to 44 damage, but realistically those long-range shots with the heavy lasers are not going to happen often. Only when you get to 3 to 6 hex range are you going to be consistently doing damage with them. While the 2 ERPPCs with the -1 to hit due to the targeting computer are an attractive option, the medium-heavy lasers are just not very useful. At 1 ton apiece, you would be better served with 3 ER medium lasers. At least that way you'd have some punch in the mid-range, along with the medium pulse lasers. Battle reports from the Star Adder assault on the Blood Spirit city of Monamora were positive, highlighting the mech's ability to clear the airspace above a battlefield. Having invested heavily in air assets, the Blood Spirit forces were crushed under the combined fire of Glass Spiders, Rifleman 2Cs, and Kurakin. The Glass Spider Variant 4 is our Dark Age Ill-Clan era re-envisioning of the battlemech. The most notable change is an upgrade to the engine to the XL variety to buy additional tonnage for weaponry. The mech was also given a supercharger in the center torso to provide it with a temporary boost of speed when necessary. The mech's 2 primary weapons are Hyper Assault Gauss Rifle 20s, 1 for each arm, along with 3 tons of ammunition for each, and an additional shared ton in the center torso. That's 21 shots for each rifle if you're counting at home. For close-range fights or a last-ditch attempt to survive, when the ammo bins run dry, the mech also has 3 ER small lasers. All 5 weapons are aided with a targeting computer. This is one of the newer variants of a clan mech that I really like, and it makes sense. The twin Hag 20s can do some serious damage all the way up to 24 hexes, and the targeting computer is a great addition to make them just a little bit more dangerous. As an anti-air mech, it's great. As fire support against battlemechs, it's a great way to grind out armor on a target or seek out crits on an already wounded opponent. On the battlefields of Sky, the Wolf Empire warriors used the Glass Spider Variant 4 effectively against Jade Falcon aerospace assets. They were so effective that the Falcons were forced to fall back and then assault the Wolves using ground forces. Now before we wrap things up, I think there needs to be a Mech Frog variant. We're going to take a step back from the norm a bit with a 3150 mixed tech loadout. I've pulled the weapons from the original and upgraded to that XL engine, which buys us a few extra tons for some new toys. The MF carries 2 Inner Sphere technology plasma rifles, 1 in each arm, along with a Clan large pulse laser. What we've got is essentially 3 primary weapons backed up with a targeting computer, 2 medium pulse lasers, and an ER small laser for intimate encounters. It's small, but it's fierce. Just as a reminder, the plasma rifles differ from the Clan plasma cannons in that the rifles do 10 direct damage to a target, along with a variable amount of heat depending on the target. Against aerospace fighters and mechs, it adds 1d6 heat. Against vehicles, battle armor, and infantry, it does an extra 2d6 damage in addition to the 10 base. I think this variant could be a lot of fun in the mid and short range. Overall, I think the Glass Spider has more than earned some limelight here with some really great variants, as well as the original loadout, which can still be a game changer even in the Ill-Clan era. Even not being a huge fan of Variant 3, I would still happily take one into battle. If you haven't had the opportunity to test drive the Glass Spider in a game of BattleTech, I recommend giving it a try. So why do we love the Glass Spider? It's a cool callback to the days of the Star League, and there are some really fun variants to play with. This one was easy. Thanks for coming by today to play with the Glass Spider. If you have had experience using one or going up against one, let me know in the comments. I'd love to hear how it went. As always, thank you for hitting all the buttons so YouTube knows it's a video worth sharing with others. And remember that channel membership is a great way to toss a few bucks to the creators you value and want to encourage to keep going. Until we meet again, take care and go make the world a slightly better place today and tomorrow.